We live right now on Facebook.
Is
We
it going
live.
live? It says it. Hey, we live. What's up, everybody? Hi, 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 hi. All
Yo,
right.
we back. What episode is this? Is episode 4?
Episode 4. We made it to
Episode
episode 4.
4.
Yes.
All
Hey,
all Skinfolk and Kinfolk.
accurate.
That's where we're going today. Thank y'all for your patience with us. We had a little hiatus due to various different things. I'll just get to it. I was in the hospital, y'all. You ain't got to know my business, but I was in the hospital. I'm good. I'm out now. Back to get busy with my homegirl, Lisa. I think the government are outside getting busy and extra loud for me today, but hey, let's go with it. But I want to get right back into it in terms of let's just get hardcore and do what we do, which is, talk that shit.
I'm with it. Yeah, this is going to be a good episode. There's just so much going on. This is good timing too. So
the main reason I wanted to double back on this one, I should say double back because we have our list of various topics, which grows daily, by the way. So anybody that wants to just throw us topics, please just throw it to us. But when we were just doing when you had me as a guest for 11/11 during the month of February, Black History Month, one of your people's, when we mentioned about topics or different things to talk about, they were like, can we talk about, basically Black people, Indigenous people, people of color, how do we feel about those who ain't really about it, but work to derail the progress of work that is being done by Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and I was like, I was like, I forgot what we were talking about, but I was like, that's a whole other topic, that's a whole show in and of itself. And so here we are with that show right here, all Skinfolk and Kinfolk.
So accurate. Yes. This is part of the reason also that I feel like it's important to always point out that it's like Black people are not a monolith. Obviously, no group is a monolith, but it's this because it's so often. This is something that I experienced a lot growing up. I actually just I spoke at an ALife class at Southern Oregon University about this a couple weeks ago. Growing up in Southern Oregon as basically like the only Black person that was here for a very long time, especially when I was in my youth, it was easy to be kind of tokenized a lot because people would ask me about my experience or things that had happened to me. And I could very easily be like, yeah, that's not ever happened to me before. I'm not sure. But it's like they were separating me from the facts of my existence. Like I'm mixed. I live in Southern Oregon. I have been brought here and raised by my white family solely. My Black family did not come with me. I was separated from them, right? So my experience is not going to be the same as that Black family that just moved here, like that Black family that just moved here that you're all singling out. So when they're saying to you, it's racist the way you're talking to me, it's racist the way you're watching me try to get into my own home, and then they ask me, oh, well, have I been racist to you? It's one thing for me to be like, nah, I mean, I haven't experienced that, but I don't speak for everybody, and my experience is not the experience of Black people. And it took me time to get older and realize that it's like, you have to be very, very specific with people. I mean, certain things in general, just across the board, need to be respected, and I don't think that. But when it comes to trying to like break down people's experience and then treat them all the same, because just like, oh, well, this is a Black person and this is what they expect, that shit never works out. It's not, because you'll always find people. And whether they're trying to use I never tried to use my experience to speak on behalf of everybody. Like there must be something wrong with them if that's what's happening. As I got older and I started to see it and understand, it's like, well, this has been my experience because of the way that I was raised and the access to white people that I have constantly and the protection that I have from white people constantly. My white mommy will not allow that. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And not all mixed kids in this area had that. I had access to so many things that they did not. But when you run into Black people or people of color that try to be like, well, it didn't happen to me, so maybe there's something with you. It's like, this is when we're allowed to be honest about our experience, but you're not allowed to try to color everybody's experience with your one. That's not the way it works.
Right,
it's not fair.
Right.
Yeah, and to be so self-centered that you think your one experience talks for the thousands of people that are speaking up, let alone all the people who aren't saying anything at all because they just don't have the energy. It's like you don't speak for everyone. That's not fair.
Right. And you hit it right on the nose, because those people are many times, which they don't even realize, are used as proxies by, white pathology. You know what I'm saying? So like they're used to be like, well, this one Black person pulled themselves up by their bootstraps, or or this one Black person did it, and when it's almost comical to me. They find literally one Black person, and then there's like there's millions speaking against it because they found one, they just missed. Like that's a numbers game, yo. Like percentage wise, like that means that probably the numbers over here are probably right versus this one.
They're relevant. Stop trying to make them irrelevant. Yes.
Right. And like you said, I mean, it gets back down to the basics. Also, it's like Black people are not a monolith, so we understand. I mean, you and I have tremendous, different, experiences. What I'm saying, like night and day. But they're both the Black experience. You know what I'm saying? They're both the Black experience.
The core of many of the things that we've experienced is like, oh yes, it did start right here. And then it like bloomed into these other things that were individual experiences for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, and the other thing I feel is that we just have to control the narrative. So so yes, there will many times a Black person will be tokenized and utilized as like the reference of exception, right?
Right.
But that's not ever utilized in terms of the protocol or the way that white people refer to themselves. Right. You know what I'm saying? You will never ever find like, well, this one white person believes this, so all this must be true. Like they will never accept that. You know what I'm saying?
I've tried doing it. That's been my new angle basically since last summer. I'm just going, well, my Black friend, or I worked with a guy, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm half white. And the half white of me says that this is racist and it's bullshit and it needs to stop. So do I speak for all of us? It never works. It never works. Never one time. But it's like, okay, well, I thought I'd try.
Right. Like they'll be
as a white person, I'll do that all the time. Well, I'm white and I think that's bullshit. Well, you're not white. Okay, well, explain my DNA then. I'm fairly certain just as much white as I am Black. You just don't want to hear it, because if I come at you as a white person trying to tell you, you're going to look at me and say, no, you are not a white person based on how I look. Okay, so just from there, we have an issue, right? Like you can accept me in my complete list as a white person. This is bullshit. We can't do it. But no, it doesn't work.
It is the same thing too. Like they'll like literally hold up someone like a rapper or a comedian to me that said something, and I'll be like, yo, get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. Like you really like, please show me where any type of reference for the the well-being of the white community that they put up as a leader, I don't know, a famous white comedian, or a football player, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or for lack of a better term, a rock star. It just doesn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Or they might be given a little platform, but it's never taken really like seriously. You know what I'm saying? Or intent. And to get big down on the all Skinfolk and Kinfolk, like you said, there's a core of Blackness, for lack of a better term. That's a common history, some of our common experiences, things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's an agenda, you know what I'm saying, for however you want to write it out. There's an agenda that basically we accept, or I accept. And for what I accept is that the agenda means that, Black people ain't supposed to be killed in this society, by the police. Black people need reparations. There's a whole bunch of things on that. When you have a person who's a Black person or Indigenous person or a person of color actively hardcore fight against what I call the core,
I
don't need them anymore.
Right.
You know, they yes, they're black. You know, yes, they're black.
And as soon as they're willing to accept that, they can come talk to us.
Right.
Yeah,
But I don't have to accept
we'll be
it.
here.
Like I don't have to explain why Candace Owens is not part of my agenda.
Right.
Like I don't have to explain that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like saying like, oh, you know, like you're white, so I'll be like, oh, so you're cool with Hitler because you're white. You know what I'm saying?
Try that sometime.
You know what I'm saying? Like
I mean, that's fair.
Like it's stupid. Like for anyone to assume that because a person shares my skin tone, that I automatically fall in line with their agenda and everything.
And but that if I don't, I must be wrong.
Right.
Like I need to reevaluate because this black person said it, so I must have to figure out what's wrong with me that I don't agree.
Right, exactly.
Shit. Yeah.
Like I said, that's why it's important to control the narrative, because the same thing isn't accepted in their life. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
You know, like I said, like, oh, you're white, so you must be cool with Hitler. Well, no, like it's just literally the same thing. Like, why do you bring up people who clearly don't are not here for the quote unquote black agenda and expect me to have to defend myself against that? You know what I'm saying? That's because you can't even see past my blackness. You can't even see that black people have their own agenda, and we have the right to accept and reject those people who are not about it. You know what I'm saying? And when those people come in terms of your organization and what you're doing, you need to call them out, and you need to, for lack of a better term, fuck them up. Meaning like they don't need to take root in your organization, in your movements. They're very, very dangerous people. You know, because one, they're a proxy for white pathology, but two, you know, they're unstable. Meaning like they don't even half the time even love themselves. They don't even know themselves. They are reckless and they're dangerous to have around, period.
Right.
You know?
Right. I got into a conversation about that on Facebook. I get a lot of conversations on Facebook. That's why I don't have Facebook on my phone anymore. I'm like, forget it. But they were talking about Lovecraft Country, which I just rewatched because it's so good.
What? Yes. Oh, that's a whole 5 shows.
I got through the first season and they just don't have a second season, so I'm like rewatching the first season, whatever. But they were talking about Letty's sister, who I can't remember, and just like kind of how insulting it is and how it's not a good representation of black people. And it's just like, but it's fair. But it's fair because black people are not a monolith. And if you have not met a black person who has not become so down on themselves, right, that they don't believe that if black people just work harder, if they just become more presentable, if they just speak this way, if they, do you know what I mean?
Right.
Then you probably haven't met very many black people. I grew up in Southern Oregon and I still know a couple of them, right? So it's like, it's a real thing. And I part of what the problem for me with dealing with it is I don't have a lot of tolerance, or it's easy for me to become a bully, basically. I don't intend to and I don't mean to, but I can speak very harshly and very abruptly and I turn into a bully. Like as my mouth is moving, it's like, ooh, you're going a little too far. So people like that just come across as so weak-minded to me that you would rather beat yourself up over all the things that you have not accomplished and allow yourself to kind of subscribe to this idea that everybody else, I mean, regardless of whether the fact they're white or not, but they're all just working harder. They're all just smarter. They're all just more dedicated. They're all just more committed. It's like, why would you think that? You don't have enough self-awareness to look at yourself and be like, no, man, I'm like giving it my all right now. Right. So I don't like working with people like that. And it's put me in a position where I don't have the kind of working relationship or connection with, you know, certain organizations, because for me, it's a deal breaker. Once somebody starts showing up, spouting off certain things, it's like, you don't belong here or I don't belong here. One of us is going to have to go. Because this kind of soft approach to try to like understand and like work with and like find compassion for fucking white supremacy. Why?
Right.
For what? Nah.
Right.
Nah,
Right.
if you don't understand black or white, that some shit is just unacceptable across the board, we don't have time for it. There is zero tolerance for it ever under any circumstances. And we are not kinfolk. We will not go anywhere together. We're not, because I won't change my mind.
Right.
And I won't learn to be kinder about certain things. But I also feel like it is important to have people that are soft enough to be kind about that. Because it's like when you see those stories about, you know, like guys who they used to be in the Proud Boys or whatever, and they've changed their life and now they're like fighting for equality or whatever. It was never like, you never hear them tell stories like, man, people were so mean to me and so fucked up to me all the time, and I just got tired of being called a racist. I just woke up one day and changed my mind. That's not how it works. Right. There's always somebody who has the kind of compassion and understanding to tolerate them and work with them. So it's like, it is a fine line for me where it's like, I don't want to stop you from progressing and getting better. I also don't want to invest any energy into it. There's somebody out there that will understand you enough to help you, and it's not fucking me. No offense, but it's like, it's not my angle. I appreciate people who have that softness, but I don't. For me, it's a deal breaker. We don't work together. We don't have anything to do with each other. The end.
Right. And that's me right now at this age. I ain't got time for any of that. You know what I'm saying? I feel like, especially if they're close to my age. Definitely if they're close to my age. I definitely don't. Like, I will be more compassionate to someone who's younger. And struggling to figure it out than I will someone near my age. Like, as far as I'm concerned, it's a wrap. It's over for you. Bye. You know, if someone helps them down the line or whatever, cool. But it won't be me. And like you said, you can't be near me and mine, because you're dangerous. And it at this point it's festered inside you. Like I said, if you got to my age and you still think in certain ways, I wrote you off, and that's okay with me. I'm okay with that. You know what I'm saying? Because like you said, we're talking kinfolk, you know, and we're talking family stuff. We're talking like essential stuff, and I don't bring people like that around my family. You can't come around my family. You're a danger to my family. You know, even more so in many cases than white racists. You know, because you come in and you get by via your skin tone, and you can infiltrate. You know, you can give space and time to ideas which we don't have time and space for. You know what I'm saying? So while we arguing whether this or that is right, it's some bullshit that we arguing over. Meanwhile, we're supposed to be handling some essential stuff, and you try to change it to this. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you can see this with politicians, you know, when they try to make a big thing out of certain things. It's like, you know, that's not a thing. You're making that happen. Like, it's not a thing. Yeah. You literally over here arguing about Goya beads. You know what I'm saying? But you know, there's kids in cages. You know, it's not a thing. You know, so like the most important thing in a lot of discussions is where you direct your attention to and where you can keep your focus on. And so certain people like that are set up to distract you and to remove your attention from something, and it removes you from building up what you know you're supposed to be building up, you know? Right. And so they win, and I'm not about having them win, because, you know, I'm competitive, so I'm competitive, so I'm like, no, you can't win. You know, part of some, I'm still stopped up with my freaking hay fever and stuff, but so I sound all nasally, you know. Shout out to Shock G, Humpty Hump. I got the Humpty Hump nasal, flow right now.
I had the biggest crush on Shock G for a very, very long time. He was so handsome, even with that silly nose, and his voice was always one of my favorites. I always felt like he was very underrated.
He is.
Yeah. Him and Tretch, for me, were two rappers from the, like, I guess late 80s or 90s that I remember just being like, why did they never get more? Like, Tretch was such a good rapper.
No, he really is incredible.
Like, Shock G was always, when I heard that, I was so very upset. And I did let my kids watch the Humpty Dance video for the first time that I am aware of, and they all looked at me like I was nuts. I kind of felt like I failed as a parent a little bit. I'm like, you don't get how badass this is. What have I done here? like sending 5 people into the world with terrible music taste. I was sad. I was like, you guys don't get it, and I'm feeling very alone in my morning right now. It was hard. I was like, what? You don't love this?
You know, but like the Humpty Dance was just like classic. But like that whole Skinfolk ain't Kinfolk thing is important, even with that level in terms of talking about colorism, things of this level in terms of just like who is allowed to be the spokesman for Black people. You know what I'm saying? And so certain things become, you know, apparent, or certain things becomes, for lack of a better term, tropes. You know what I'm saying? You see them again and again. So like, for instance, you know, I didn't want to go there because I didn't want to really give these people that shine, but like the current statement by, you know, the Senator Tim Scott, you know what I'm saying? Black senator, you know, I want to say he's from Texas, don't quote me, but basically he was put up as a proxy after the Biden, you know, speech the other day, and he's put up as a proxy by the GOP to say like, oh, you know, racism, America's not racist, you know, folks, you know, there might be some racism that happens in America, but America was never racist. It's like, yo, dude, first of all, you look stupid as fuck. You know, up there, you know, not realizing that you're being used as a tool for fucking white pathology. Fucking, they got their hand up your fucking ass. You know, you looking like a talking puppet up there, literally.
Yeah,
and then basically be co-signed by Kamala Harris and Biden.
We all knew that was coming.
Yeah, they both basically said, Biden and Kamala Harris basically said like, yeah, America's not racist, and this is the issue. It's like, until you really define and acknowledge a problem, you can't correct it. So like all of their things in terms of going to like address racism in America, it don't mean shit if you don't realize that that America in its inception as it is right now today is a racist fucking country.
How is it not? Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, this is because part of the tropes, and this is the problem. What happens, because so then you look at these people, you know, and it's the same way in terms of who's allowed to be spokesman for. It's like, how much investment in the Black community do they have? So for instance, you know, both of them are in interracial relationships with white people. Okay.
Yeah.
So like, you're like, okay, here we go again. You know what I'm saying? It's like, not saying that that's like always the reference point, but it's just like, okay. And then so with Kamala also, there's been times that she has not emphasize that she was Black and emphasize her Desi, you know, heritage. And it gets a lot in terms of talking about, I know Tariq, you know, has a whole bunch of stuff and he becomes heavy-handed with people on a lot of things I definitely don't see eye to eye with him on. But he has these notions of, there's these two notions now that's floating around, ADOS and Foundation of Black Americans. You know, Americans' descent of slavery and foundational Black America. They're two different camps. They all got issues and stuff, but their root definition is that Black people in the United States who are descendants of those who were enslaved are a specific ethnic group, right? And they need certain has certain needs that needs to be addressed, just like any other ethnic group in here. Like the same ways when Japanese were in internment camps, they got reparations for that, you know. And what's problematic is with the whole Skinfolk and Kinfolk is that they point out an essential fact also, which is that yes, there are Black people throughout all the diaspora, and there's many Black people from the diaspora who came here, you know, post-slavery, whatever, and many of them have bought into this notion of the American dream.
Yeah.
You know, so they, to a degree, they separate themselves from the Black population here when it's convenient for them.
Yeah.
You know, so they're like, they see themselves more as a Black immigrant versus a Black, for lack of a better term, American. You know what I'm saying? So their focus is different and everything. Like they basically, if you come here from, you know, you want to get into the power structure here. You know what I'm saying? And if part of the power structure is shitting on the Black people who are already here, you know, the anti-Blackness, they do that, even though they're Black. You know, so they'll fall into the whole thing like Black Americans are lazy. I see what I did when I came here. Yeah, what you did when you came here, you were able to get X, Y, and Z. You know, you didn't deal with, you know, legacy or trauma and so much other things. But that's what I mean. You know, Skinfolk and Kinfolk, they're in positions of power. They appear to be able to speak for Black Americans, but they really don't. And this even notion goes back to even Obama. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I thought racism was cured when he became president.
Right. He did the same thing. He spoke to like Black boys in America a certain way, but he didn't speak to any other ethnic groups. You know, and at the same time giving money to all these ethnic groups, but you know, saying to Black people like, "Yo, you want a handout?" Meanwhile, while giving all this money to other ethnic groups, and the same thing happened with Kamala. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But Timmy Boy is hilarious because literally the same speech, he comes up with like, he said something, and don't get me wrong, I'm gonna quote the wrong number, but he said like literally that he's been pulled over like 17 or 18 times by the cops while driving black. But this is what he said, but he could see the beauty in the police. What kind of fucking statement is that? Who talks like that?
What does that mean?
That means that yo, get out, dude. Like you are all the way deep in. Like you are all the way deep in. Like, and you don't even realize it, yo. Like
he's been pulled over that many times, and he's just like, cool though. Just please do their job. I'm Black, obviously. I need to be pulled over and
right.
How else are we going to deal with people like me? Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure. Pardon, I'm going to step on the screen because I got to do the nose thing, but and not for nothing. And I'm sure he was all dressed respectively and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure he's driving a nice car. That you know he had everything for. Like, and you were pulled over, dude. You were pulled over. You know. Pardon me just a second. I gotta do the nose thing. Hold on.
Yeah, you're fine. It reminded me of this conversation that I actually had on Facebook a little while ago too, where a friend had posted just that it's impossible to survive off like $10 an hour or $12 an hour. She had listed something. She was like, it's impossible to make it. And, you know, a lot of people were chiming in with their personal stories of how hard it is. And a couple people were like, meh, meh, meh. But one lady in particular was like, it's not impossible. You can do it if you know how to budget and live within your means. And so then people were interrogating her, like, how? Like, how can you possibly budget $10 or $12 an hour and live within your means? Like, what are your means? A box? Like, what are you talking about? And she's like, I don't even remember exactly how she said it. But long story short, she basically said, I had my job during the day that paid me the $10, $12 an hour, whichever number we were talking about. And then I had two other jobs that I was willing to work at night. I said, sometimes you weren't living off $10 an hour though. But that's what we just said. Like, you buy into this narrative, like you can do it if you work hard enough. But that's the point, is you have to keep working because you cannot live off $10 an hour. This has nothing to do with your work ethic or what, do you know what I mean? The color of your skin, necessarily, whoever you are, that's too much. You just said you had to take on two other jobs. So you were not living off $10 an hour. You were living off whatever the accumulative is of all the jobs you had to get, because it was impossible to live off that wage, you know?
And you probably didn't get sick.
So also that, yes.
Right. Because even working all those jobs, that showed me that you didn't have a job that was good enough to give you benefits, because a job that you're working $10 an hour is not giving you benefits, right, at all. And if you're working those other two jobs, you're clearly working those other two jobs part-time, no matter how much money you get paid at those jobs. So you're not getting benefits. So that precludes the fact that, you know, like, that means you didn't get sick. Because if you got sick, you would have been all screwed up. One, you wouldn't have the money, but two, it was going to mess up you working at those jobs. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's crazy
like
that
all these people
are
sharing their experience of how stressed out they are, you know, how difficult it is, and all, you know, and she comes in like, well, you can do it if you try hard enough. It's like, really? So then why didn't you try harder? Because it doesn't sound like you could do it either. It's like, I don't even think they understand how much they are undermining their skinfolk, who should be kinfolk. It's like, yo, we should all be
Right.
able to rally around and be like, we deserve a living wage. This whole thing that it's like, well, I can do it because I found a bunch of other jobs. Well, I mean, that's basically what everybody in this thread just said. Like, literally everybody here just said the same thing.
Right. And you're not supposed to be working 3 or 4 jobs. Yo, that's stupid.
You're not.
Because that also means that you're literally just working to exist. You know, you're not, you have no downtime or nothing. So you're literally just working to have food, clothing, and shelter. That's not living, you know. And
a place to hold your stuff so you go back
wages,
to work.
You know.
Yeah. I don't always.
You know,
do you think there are certain people of color?
It's important.
Or like, no, tell me, what was that? What was that?
No, go ahead. I was just about to ramble on something else, but go ahead.
I was gonna ask you if you feel like, I feel like there's a little lag in the mic. That's what I saw. Do you feel like there are certain people, I mean, what is like exiled, for lack of a better term? Do you feel like there are certain Black or like certain positions that Black people or people of color can take that it's just like, that's it, like washing our hands of you, you're not allowed, you're no longer a part of the Black delegation, we're trading you out?
Do you really want me to say it, Lisa? Do you really want me to say it? Yo,
I need to know. I gotta know I'm not alone.
FTP, yo, FTP. If you're a cop, I write you off. It is what it is. It is what it is. Get over it. You know, you know, talk to your therapist about it. Don't talk to me. I write them off, especially in this current climate. I was just talking to someone the other day. There's a cop. I had this article of a cop from Connecticut, who basically said he's resigning from cops in Connecticut because basically nothing's happening there. It's peaceful and everything, and that his brothers and sisters in blue are under assault in other places, so he's transferring like to one of the hot spots. And I'm just like, so you just want to kill people. You just want to kill people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So in this current climate, as far as I'm concerned, cops have always been killing Black, Indigenous people of color. But in this current climate, I feel that there's a heavy backlash because Black people, it started at the end of Obama with the killing of, oh goodness, I can't remember names, but when the killing started under him of Black boys and Black children and Black people by the cops, and the growth of Black Lives Matter and stuff, the cops retaliated. You know what I'm saying? And we see this every time. They're on retaliation. We see this with the Floyd case, that people, while the freaking verdict was being read and passed, that they were killing freaking people. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like, they've been revenge killing. So like, anybody at this point, if you're a Black Indigenous person of color, I don't give a fuck. You're written off as far as I'm concerned if you decide to stay a cop or be a cop. Also, the border shit, if you were fucking Spanish speaking and you're overseeing your children in cages at the border, fuck you too. You know what I'm saying? Fuck you 3 times. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
How do you not know that's wrong?
Right, you're a piece of shit. So I don't want to hear your explanations or anything for it. Like, some things to me don't need to be science stuff. Some things to me don't need to be made more complex. They're simple shit. There's children in cages. All right. Yeah, I don't want to be a part of that. Bad idea.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Cops are killing people in revenges. You know what I'm saying? And Black cop, and it's so plain to me. Like the Black cop, Minnesota, was it? The Black cop who ended up shooting that white woman, and he's in jail. You know what I'm saying? They handled that really fast. They did. It had so fast that your head spin. You know what I'm saying? Right. But white cops shoot Black people, and we can't get nothing. We really need to investigate. Who knows what's going on? That's not my profession. So I write. Those are 2 professions that, right off the rip, I write people out. Politics, I don't. But your politics can get you written off. Not just because you're a politician, your particular politics, and you're a politician. You're right. You're right off. Those are the ones that's heavy on my head. It's not usually profession per se.
Right.
It's more so your ideology, and people's ideology pop up real quick,
Right.
I'm writing off a lot of Black people also right now who have felt for the banana in the tailpipe kind of shit with QAnon. Like, there's Black people who basically now believe in a lot of QAnon shit and everything. I'm like, I write those off like those people you said just are weak. I'm just like, yo, you believe
Can
that
I just
shit?
ask why we all of a sudden started caring about sex trafficking and children being raped? It's like, this hasn't been an issue for you guys the whole time. Like, do you know what I mean? You needed some like weird, crazy conspiracy theory shit for you to start giving a fuck about things that everybody knows has been happening this entire time. It's like, right. I don't feel like it's bad to, be riled up by something.
Right.
Because when you find out is when you find out. But, especially here in Oregon, like, it's like you said, since you've been in Oregon, you've never seen so many homeless people on the sides of the roads in Portland, right? Like, the human trafficking that happens in Portland is mind-blowing. The last time that I actually had the energy to look into it when I was still attending Southern Oregon University, we were like number one. Portland, Oregon was like the place. There's so many fucking homeless people. There's so many just homeless children. Like, it's crazy. The QAnon thing, I'm sad by that. Oh Lord.
Well, that's like I said, that the issue is all skinfolk and kinfolk, because once again, should we care about human trafficking and all that kind of stuff? Of course we should, but getting your info from and what you're digesting. So if your source of human trafficking and stuff is QAnon, then you need to realize the origins of QAnon. You need to realize that stuff was set up, comes all from racist foundations, and then also how they frame human trafficking, is not beneficial to help those who you want to help it from human trafficking. If you really, really believe, and don't get me wrong, I honestly think that there are some in the elite who are doing fucked up stuff to children, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Of course they are. Well, rich people been doing that shit forever, all right?
Always.
Right. But for you to focus on fucking Hillary Clinton as, a fucking, child sex trafficker versus looking at your own neighborhood where little girls are getting thrown in vans, that's the problem.
That's
you know
weird.
what I'm saying? That's the problem. So you basically paying attention to what they tell you to pay attention to.
Right.
And I'm not, that's what I'm not about, and so
right, yeah.
I write those people off because they're weak minded, because they haven't invested in proper investigation and research, and they're dangerous because then once again they derail the agenda.
Yep.
The Black agenda.
Yep.
The Black agenda. Listen, Black agenda. We know white people have been fucking. Rich white people have been fucking shit up. We know that shit. I'm here speaking English, new. And we hear all different shades. We know this shit. You know what I'm saying? Stop.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Stop. We don't need QAnon to tell us that kind of stuff. And
right.
That's a heavy issue for me, that we go to these people.
Right.
So yeah, I write those people off too.
Yeah. I found myself losing patience with. It's funny that, well, it's not funny, but it's just interesting that you brought it up, and then it reminded me, because it's like, this is so obvious, the kinfolk issue. When Ma'Khia Bryant was murdered and people started justifying it because she had a knife, I literally lost my shit on family members. I have family members now that have blocked me and I'm not talking to, because I'm like, in what world? That was another one. I feel like the thing that was interesting about what happened to Ma'Khia Bryant is, like, people who have been so behind the Black Lives Matter movement, people who have been very vocal about understanding police brutality and violence and systemic and systematic racism and the way it shows up in police departments and all of these things were suddenly like, well, she had a knife. What would you have done? Bitch, what are you talking about? My job? I'd have done my job. And you want to know what my job would never be? Being a cop, because I wouldn't do that shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, right. I don't understand what you're even talking about. Is a police officer's job to kill everybody that they see with a weapon? If that's the case, then why is it when I Google, man arrested with a knife, all these stories come up. Why were they arrested and not murdered? Somebody's not doing their fucking job. You're supposed to be murdering all of them, aren't you? Oh, right. You're not? Then why did you murder her? Right? It's like you start asking these questions because people want to pop off with stupid shit. And it's like, yo, I thought we were kinfolk. There was a moment that we were kinfolk until you decided that there was a reason you had to separate yourself from her to be like, nah, I would never. That's her. Bullshit. You're being surrounded by people that are trying to attack you. What are you supposed to do? That one really hurt me. That was a moment that I feel like was when I started looking around like,
know the full story.
Fuck? Exactly.
And these, so since they reacted in a certain manner without knowing the full story, that, like you said, it's hurtful because it's like, oh no, you carry these deep-seated notions within you. You know what I'm saying? And so like, yeah, you're like, there's so much surrounding her death that's just literally about hatred of Black women.
Right.
That's all it is. There's no way around it. And for with someone with my skin tone to say that shit, like, I'm gonna say this on the podcast. Oh, fuck DJ Envy. DJ Envy from the morning show basically, was saying like she deserved it, all this kind of stuff. I was just like, like, yo, fuck you.
Said that she deserved it?
But like, yeah. He understands why. Nah, you don't understand shit. Because Kyle was able to fucking go to another state with an automatic weapon and shoot people, and he's alive. No one shot at him at all. Not even tried to shoot at him. You know what I'm saying? Or you got homeboy who was down there and murdered everybody in that church, taking it out for McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, it's so easy. Burger King, you're right. Sorry. Don't want to get,
just saying
McDonald's in trouble for that. But the thing is, it's like you said, you could literally Google it. You'll see like some white man just recently like shot at cops and chased him down with cars and dragged him in the car. He alive. Like all these dudes, like literally, and there's that one picture of the guy like literally has his gun out, and the police is just like, stop. Like, not his hand's not even near his gun. Like so like. So that's why they say like more training. I was like, no, fuck more training. They know what they're doing, and no more training, will help them with this. It's like homegirl who recently shot the cop who recently shot, like she was the trainer.
Oh, right. And she said she thought she was grabbing her taser. It's like, okay, well, you're an idiot and you don't get to be here anymore. There's not another job in the world where you can make mistakes so big and they keep you.
No, and that you can get a job in that field ever again. If I messed up in the field when I was working with mentally physically challenged adults in a certain manner, I cannot be in that field ever again.
You're
Teachers,
done.
If you fuck up in certain things, you cannot come back. Police, you can literally kill somebody and go over into the next town and be hired. Not only can you be hired, they will hire you. They'll be like, oh, this is a good fit. You know what I'm saying? So like when there's Black people who accept those narratives, you are a danger. You're not only a danger, you're an enemy to me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you're an enemy to me, and I'm not going to debate you. We're not going to sit here with some damn philosophy lesson. You know what I'm saying? If you think it's okay for a freaking a cop to get out here and shoot a Black girl who's defending herself, fuck you and your mother probably too. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't raise person. And
they did a terrible job.
So there's not this space. Like I think in that way, you and I are very similar. Like I think our temperaments are different at different times, but in terms of like not accepting or making place for the pork shit, we both are definitely on that level.
It's true.
Yeah.
I find myself in a lot of situations where people expect me to explain myself, and I'm like, I don't struggle with being misunderstood. I don't. Just because it's like people get it or they don't. So you don't have to agree with me. That doesn't mean anything to me. I'm right. And the problem is I have a very hard time respecting people who don't feel the same. Half the arguments that I get in with people that I don't like is, why do you care so much what I think? Why? I don't like you. I disagree with you. And it is weak as fuck on your end for you to care about that. Who am I? What influence do I have over your life? What power? I'm just a person in the world who has an opinion that disagrees with yours, and you should really stop letting that have so much power over you, because it has zero power over me. I'm going to continue on. Try it. Like, you don't have to get everybody on your team. Stop being so focused on it. So yeah, for me, I will literally, we could be cool for 10 years. This has happened to me right here in this valley. White kids that I grew up with, that I was cool with, that I was close with. You can be walking this way down the street and I can be walking this way. I'll pretend I don't see you. You don't exist. I don't have the energy for you anymore. I won't put into it anymore. Once you establish that like certain things are how you see it, that's fine. I won't be putting energy into convincing anyone otherwise, especially like our age. You're right about that. Because I do feel like I'm really impressed by kids these days. I mean, I say kids, and I know they're kids because it's like I'm 38 and I feel old. But I, respectfully, it's like I understand 20, 22, 24, 25-year-old people are not necessarily kids. Right. But I'm shocked at and impressed and like, enamored almost with some of the things that I see kids in like the early 20s, even down to like 15, 16, 17 years old. Some of the shit these kids are doing, and that they're understanding and like pushing and refusing to let up on that shit's inspiring, because I don't remember that when I was that age. And I'm dealing with it now, because like I said, it's like I'm in my late 30s and I am looking around constantly just like shaking my fucking head at people like, you really think that? You genuinely believe that? Yikes, and it's impressive how like younger kids understand certain things in a way that people our age, you have to find the time to break it down for them like they're a 3-year-old, like not even kindergarten, like you really got to bring it all the way down to get them to understand like basic human decency, I guess. It's like why it's not, I don't know.
I think part of that is the transfer between generations, meaning that the boomer generation was so long that they had a real strong effect on kind of like defining what reality is for a lot of people.
Fair.
But when our generation X and the generation right after it, so like the issue is that there wasn't stability in that vision. So like by the time that I was born, the pillars that held up their vision were already crumbling, meaning that we already started to see jobs being shipped across seas for cheaper labor. We already saw factories started falling down. We already saw the economy change, so that where, like you said, the boomer generation, you could have one person in the household have a job that was able to take care of a whole family, that was able to, that had benefits for the whole family, that had retirement for the whole family, that they could send people to college for the whole family. That shit changed. Started changing in the 70s. So I think a lot of my generation, it's kind of catch-22. There's some of us who like see that shit and be like, yeah, that shit was fucked up. They didn't leave me shit. We gotta do something different. But there's others, I feel, that what their problem is like they crave that, they want that, right? But it's never going back to that, because that was based on the exploitation of people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And people right now, it's falling apart. Like it wasn't just like a neutral thing. It was based on the exploitation of people. And we're not going back to that. But they want that. They don't want the exploitation per se. They want to be blind to that, but they want the good job. They want the the benefits and all this kind of stuff. And they kind of just want to get lost in that without realizing, one, that shit was oppressive and wicked, and two, it's not going back to that. So I feel like a lot of people, they really, they're holding on to the tit of like white pathology. Like they don't want to grow up. It's like keep sucking on the tit of white pathology. I'm just like, yo, get off the titty. What I'm saying? And grow the fuck up. This is where we are now. Grow the fuck up. And then you could be welcome into Kinfolk. But until that time, especially at this time right now, you a mark. Anybody can get it if you are, against the agenda of this black core that I'm talking about. If you get that, you can get it. I ain't got time for you. You know what I'm saying? And I don't make space for them. You know what I'm saying? Like we said, we don't make space for them. But yeah, that's why it's so weird though, because I feel like it's kind of within our generation that a lot, you know, that murkiness in terms of like there's some who's this way and some who's that way, because that's, I feel, when it started to change from the boomer kind of vision. That's why boomer vision is kind of like monolithic. It's kind of like unified, their vision, you know. But ours are just like, yeah, nah. It's like half of us, it's like the shit wasn't working. We got to figure out something else. And other than them, just like, man, I just want this, you know. But I'm just like, yeah, but you can't buy a house, can you? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't buy a house like your parents were able to buy a house under the same conditions. You know, like, it's just not going.
Yeah. It takes a while to build any kind of trust for me either. It's like, if you want, there are certain people that I just feel like once you've kind of established the same way all of us, I guess, the way that we have to kind of unpack and relearn certain things as we get older, when it comes to stuff dealing with race, I don't trust people who have a change of heart like 6 months or a year later or 2 years later. And maybe that's not necessarily fair, because it's not necessary. But for me, it's just like, look, it takes a long time and a lot of work to become self-aware enough to start seeing things about ourselves that we're not happy or proud of, and then to start working on them and changing them. So just because you've suddenly had an experience that you don't like, and you want somebody to be your pit bull because you've never had to do it before, does not mean that you're back on board with the cause. And that, do you know what I mean? It's like, now you need us to serve an interest for you because something has happened to you. But then when you feel like you've been made whole again, are you still a part of the grand scheme of things? Do you know what I mean?
No,
I've never experienced police brutality. I've never experienced police violence. The fuck does that have to do with the fact that I see it very clearly everywhere I look, and I need to put my energy into doing something about that, right? It's just like, those people, I don't. So then for me to not care and be like, oh, well, I mean, cops have always been, I've had a couple like snarky police officers, just like assholes, you know what I mean? Give a fuck about them though. For the most part, I've had great positive interactions with police officers. And if I want to cling to that my whole life and just kind of dismiss all these other things that I'm seeing with my own two fucking eyes, but then one day a police officer is, unnecessarily rough with me or whatever, and how does that change, right? Like my actual position. You can't be offended just when it happens to you. And it was like we were talking about grassroots organizing. It has to be like a commitment to the cause. It takes like a very long time. You have to be in it.
Right.
So I have such small patience for that kind of thing. I have an easy time dismissing people who then have problems and want to come back for help. It's like, somebody out there will help you, but you won't be getting it from me. I don't have it for you.
Right. And that's also a byproduct of white pathology and the Western civilization, hyper individualism. Right. So it doesn't exist unless it happens to me. Right. You know, it doesn't exist unless it happens to me. And so it's, and you know, I hate to, they're not the exact parallels, but I'd like to use some parallels in terms of with sexism, you know, with dudes like, you know, like,
why not? Yep.
When women talk about, you know, like the male gaze, they talk about how dudes are just like, you know, horrible to them. Like, well, I've never seen it, or I've never done it. You know, I've never seen it. You know, meanwhile, those same dudes, if a freaking, you know, queer guy is looking at them weird, all of a sudden they get like, oh my God, like, why is he looking at me? Like, it's like, so you can recognize it. You have the capacity to, but you know, there's some reason that you're not doing it. And that's the same way, like you said, with those things in terms of just like, you know, if someone puts their hand on a stove and they get burned, you know what I'm saying? And I can see that, you know what I'm saying? I can see that. I can process that, you know what I'm saying? Right. But, and I can then also show, you know, some empathy to them. But then for me not to acknowledge the pain that a hand on a stove does until I do it myself and then expect everybody to come and help me, that's some real bullshit. Like I don't expect, like, even me saying it, like, why would you expect people to give a fuck about you at that point when you've dismissed everybody else?
This is a perfect opportunity to pick yourself up by your bootstraps, buddy.
Like, right. Yeah. So this is that's why it's important that, like you said, that people have to be vetted when they come into the kinfolk level, because they will have experiences based on their skin at some point in their life, and they will start looking for refuge from the communities of their skin. But like you said, like, just because they had experience, isn't it transform? Did that experience fully transform them? You know what I'm saying? Or is that just a little experience and they still carry all that other baggage? As far as I'm concerned, you gotta go and handle all the stuff you already fucked up before you come around here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, there's a lot of people you probably gotta apologize to and gotta address, do that, instead of just focusing on you. And that actually is the essence of community. You know what I'm saying? That's the essence of kinfolk. It's like, if it's not about you, it's about the collective. So now you have to seek, the apology, or you have to redress or address the collective in terms of what you did in your past. And so that's a whole bunch of stuff you got to do before you come over here thinking like, hey, look, I had a racist thing done to me. Yeah, we told you that shit, but you still gotta handle that shit before you come over here. You know what I'm saying?
All of that stuff that you expect out of other people who have been suffering racist attacks. So you get to prove it. Show us how it's done, buddy.
Right.
We'll follow your lead. Right. Yeah, that's how I. Well, and it's interesting that you bring up the sexism, because I make that comparison all the time. And one comparison that I'd like to bring up is when we are dealing with a situation where a woman or multiple women want to come out and say, I was raped or I was sexually assaulted by this person, but then some other woman pops up and is like, I hang out with him all the time and he's never done anything to me. You guys must be liars. Blah, 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 blah. It's not that never happens, but it's like, for the most part, it is socially unacceptable to let this one woman negate the experience of other, supposed victims. We stand up and say, your one good experience does not, respectful man make, madame. Like, all these other people are saying this, and rape is a serious accusation. So while we, lucky you, it didn't happen to you, but these people are victims.
Right.
Don't turn this on them. And it should be the same with racism. Like, why is it not the same with racism? It's like, aren't we all lucky that you haven't been a racist sack of shit to every single person that you've had an interaction with? What the fuck does that even mean? Who cares? Like, how is that relevant? Right? Like,
well, it centers the wrong person. Once again, that hyper individuality. I'm going to center my experience, and I'm going to say that my experience is the universal experience. And if you can't get with that, it's the universal experience, then you're the problem. You fucked up.
Right.
You talked to the police wrong. You did this wrong. Yes. You didn't do this right. You know what I'm saying? And you literally have made the minority position the dominant position, which is fiction.
It doesn't even make any sense. Yeah.
Right. Ridiculous. Because we already have the data from the dominant position. Right. You know what I'm saying? So for people literally to get on national television and says America is not a racist country, I'm like, you have no idea what the definition of racism is, or you just stupid, or are you just lying?
Lying to yourself and everyone else. I don't believe there's anyone that stupid. I think people are just fucking delusional. I have not one person yet that I've met who takes on these positions, white or black, to be clear, but especially black. Not one of them have I ever met that I'm like, yo, you really just don't see it, do you? You have no, you're delusional. Right. You talk yourself into shit, because if you convince yourself that it was that person, then you can kind of like by proxy convince yourself it will never be you. If you accept that there is the common denominator that keeps popping up in these interactions, and that you also have that common denominator, then you're in fear and you feel like you're threatened. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to acknowledge that reality. I've never met anybody that I think is actually stupid enough that they don't see it. They're liars.
Right. There's a benefit
Very good one.
from them. There's a benefit from them taking certain positions.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And even in the person, a black person, indigenous person, a person of color, you know, they think that they are linked to that white power structure. So even their presentation is because they're like, this will keep me in good graces with those folk, you know.
Yeah, I'm here. I hate allergies. It's that time of year too. Everybody around here is doing yard work, like trees are being cut down. I am sneezing constantly. And my kids keep trying to pretend that they're sick. They keep coming at me like, oh, Mom, I have a scratchy throat and I can't stop sneezing. I'm like, it's allergies. Finish your math. I literally do not care. I'm living with the shits my whole life, and we're gonna
this season's pretty bad. Even the doctor
it's hard.
Bad
it
for
is
me.
hard.
But I feel that we touch what we're supposed to touch.
Yeah. What happens when Skinfolk ain't your kinfolk?
You know.
Don't even fuck with them.
Yeah, we don't make room. Yeah, we don't make room for them. You know, we identify them, and we like you said, we exile them. We don't give them space. We give them enough rope to hang with, and we let go on your way. You know, the era that we're in right now, we don't have time for that.
No, and depending on who you are, I do want to say this. Like, there are certain people that I will get in the way of your progress. Like, I will make an effort to make sure that you don't go where you're trying to go because you're too dangerous. There are also people that it's just like, yo, I think you're a little, see through the veil very well. So I'm just going to leave you alone. And like, well wishes, right? Like, it's not about getting in everybody's way to stop them, although there are some that are dangerous. Like whoever Candace Owens is, I feel like somebody should have stopped her already. Like, this needs to stop, right? She's terrible. Right. But just like on our day-to-day interactions, it's like you're allowed to let people go and just wish them well somewhere else and like hope that they figure it out, but not around me and not my energy. You don't get any of mine for sure. Right.
And I think this is the time where like we're at the era we're at now, we're at the age where we're at right now, where like literally just like, you know, we don't have time. We don't have time. There's too much stuff that we need to do, you know, in terms of our personal self and in terms of that core Black agenda, where we don't got time for those people. You know what I'm saying? They just got to be negated. You know what I'm saying? And so by letting them in, that, you know, impedes our progress.
Energy drain. Yeah,
it is. It's straight vampires. So we got put that light on and throw the stake through their heart, you know, and just be like, just die, mofo.
Yeah. I'm so glad we got back on air today. Yay. Oh, you know what? 2 weeks. Our next show is in 2 weeks.
You know, so we're gonna rock again on the 19th.
Malcolm X's birthday.
Oh, okay.
I know, I was just thinking, I was like, I got a Malcolm X event that evening. I'll have time to do the podcast, but we got to come up with something good.
Right.
Something good for Malcolm. That's dope. That makes me excited.
Thank you, everybody, once again for rocking with us. Yeah. You know, we appreciate everything. And this will be out on all platforms later tonight. And just stay with us. We just began.
Yeah. All right. Thank y'all. Everyone be well. We will catch you guys next time.
Peace.